Hi, everybody. So when I was asking for ideas of what I might be able to do with my new YouTube venture, one person brought up a question and I thought it would be interesting to address. So here it is. Saad, I'm going to take a different tack on this. I graduated with a Master of Arts degree in sociology after working in a PhD in the subject for 12 years. During that graduate education, I took courses in sociology of religion. I've come to the conclusion that although religious people can take things too far, religions can be pro-social institutions. My question is how to get the benefits of religion without the drawbacks. Now, my first reaction to questions like these has generally been that this isn't a good idea, that religion is kind of inherently volatile, and while some religious people can be progressive or come to good conclusions, religion just isn't the best way to do it. You're going to get to the right answers on accident at best. There's also the general sarcastic answer, religion doesn't have any benefits, it doesn't do anything good. But if we were to take this question more seriously than that, you might say that religion can impart some moral values, be a source of good teachings and stuff like that. Maybe the vehicle we use to transmit a general sense of right and wrong to people. But the trick is then we run into the question of whether religion can do this uniquely well, or whether it can do it reliably well at all. Like I kind of alluded to, when you have teachings that come down from some kind of dogma or some kind of understanding of what God wants, you can't establish what a God wants for one thing, much less that one exists, which is a whole other question. Even if you believe in God, I think establishing its nature and what it wants, and even factually its existence, can be kind of tricky. You might say it's a matter of faith or something kind of personal. So then how do you know that those teachings are good? That can be a little bit tricky. Anybody can come up with anything and say it comes from God. There is the question, though, of even if there are problems with religion, I think this question asked about people taking it too far. I think the problem runs deeper than taking it too far, because it's just an unreliable way to arrive at information. But does it have anything good that kind of counteracts that drawback? So I guess the question is, we come to this famous question, can religion offer anything of value that we can't do as well or better through secular means? And I think religion actually does when I've thought about it over time. This isn't a big endorsement of religion, but I think we have to acknowledge that you can do some things with a little bit of good benefit to it through religion that you can't without religion. One I would say would be it provides a basis for forming community and bringing people together that it's hard to get without religion. And to understand this, try to think of the fact that like atheist church gatherings or just atheists, I can't remember what they call them, but just when they try to get all the atheists together on a Sunday morning, you just can't draw crowds like that. And I think the reason is religion compels people to come gather. You feel a little bit socially obligated. And so that actually brings people together and forms community. Not on the best basis, in my opinion, but it objectively does that. So it is a good tool for forming community. Also, its framing of morality as divine command, while obviously fraught with pitfalls and while I would say generally is bad, it does give an easy way for the average person to understand morality. And this can easily sound condescending, and in some cases probably it could get that way, but I don't think it has to be. This isn't to say that people are dumb. I think Richard Dawkins had once said, what a condescending thing to say, I can understand morality without religion, but, you unwashed masses and all you peasants can't. I don't think that has to be the mentality. The average person just doesn't have a lot of time or inclination to dive into moral philosophy and really understand why we do what we do. To understand this, just think of how easily questions about how do you get morality without God trip people up. It's hard to fully understand, at least in explicit terms, why we come up with certain moral values and then why they should apply to everybody and how it contradicts just mere preference, for example. So just in theory, religion can provide a framework where large groups of people who don't have time to think about this can just understand that there are teachings we follow. And when these teachings come from some supposed divine source, then they become a little bit bigger than individual people. And while those people can warp and twist them and use them to their own purposes, there is something beyond a person that it comes from. So this gives the average person something other than a person said so as a reason to follow a command while still phrasing things as commands. Again, I don't think this is great. This isn't my favorite way of doing things. I think it is very problematic. But if we're trying to look at something that comes from religion, it is something that religion can do that secularism cannot do. So then it's a question of, to what extent are we better off trying to actually impart secular values and a secular understanding of morality? And how much do we just want all these rules for the people who don't have time for all that? And again, I'm going to keep going back to this. I sound like I'm endorsing this idea. I'm not. I'm just trying to find where the benefit is. So I think it would be a little silly to pretend this isn't there. So this brings us back to the big question. How do we get these benefits without the drawbacks? That's where this is really tricky. I'm not so sure we can do that. In order to get these benefits, I think we would somehow have to extract the fundamentalist or literalist elements of religious belief from religion. Then we could use that sense of community, use that structure for belief without actually having people believe literally in the teachings. And that's a hard thing to do because it's going to come off possibly as condescending. Just say, hey, go to your church and do your thing, but we're not really going to believe in all this stuff they teach you. And also, if you make the non-literal nature of the religion explicit, then I think you're starting to rob it of the very benefits that we're trying to get. So it's hard because I think you want to maintain this general understanding of religion as if not non-literal, something we can't come to really clear conclusions about so everyone can get along and we're not getting into fights over fundamentalist values. But how do you maintain a nebulous understanding like that? And once you make the understanding explicit, then are you, number one, robbing religion of its inherent value? And then number two, people are going to get up in arms about that. They don't like being told that their religion isn't literally true. Trust me, I used to be a fundamentalist evangelical. So this is a really hard question. It got me thinking. I hope I don't come off as flippant to anybody. I hope I don't come off as hedging one way or the other too much. But thank you. Let me look up your name. John Demerit, I believe. Thank you for your question. I thought it was really interesting, but I just don't know. I don't know how you can get the benefits of something without undermining the very things that make it work, or the only unique things that make it work. I think the only unique things that make it work are the belief structure that kind of draws people in under the understanding of some kind of God existing, but the difficulty in establishing what that God wants and the fact that it can just be so easily be abused because anybody can come up with anything. I don't know. And that drawback, I think, goes beyond just taking things too far. I don't mean to assume things about what you meant by that question, by that phrasing, but I don't know. I'm rambling, but the thing is, I just don't know. I think if you could just pull a trigger and have us just have a good implicit secular understanding of religion, that would be great. But I don't know how to maintain that. So sorry I don't have a better answer, but those are my thoughts. Hope you enjoyed them, at least some.